Hina is a test lead at IBM India, and she brings 16 years of hands-on experience in testing on varied domains like investment banking, retail banking, messaging, and cloud. And Nilambari is currently a dev manager for IBM Cloud Pak Systems, which India Software Labs, and brings 20 years of rich industry experience into software testing, quality assurance, and DevOps. So Hina and Nilambari would be speaking on Relish your journey to software testing Masterchef. So probably you guys can visit their profiles on LinkedIn and for more information on that. Or maybe also you can visit GTR Agile Testing Alliance.org website, and over there you can also find the interview series of both the speakers. So over to you now, Hina and Nilambari.
Hey, thank you so much. I will be starting first, and then I'll hand over to Hina. So thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you for this opportunity of presenting at the Agile Testing Alliance conference, a very well organized conference, if I may say so. So today we are going to talk on the topic of Release Your Journey to Software Testing Masterchef. And I wanted to give you a brief background on why we selected this title. So when we were submitting the abstract for this particular conference, the topic we chose was test craftsmanship. And we were in a lockdown at that time, and very strict one. And cooking was the only entertainment available. Trying out new recipes was a big pastime on WhatsApp, Facebook, etc. And we thought, why not draw the analogy of the journey of a master chef with that of a tester, and how a tester can become a test craftsman, like any ordinary cook can turn into a master chef. So that's how we came across this title, and we have kind of interspersed some of the terms of cooking throughout our presentation. So please bear with us, and hopefully it will be a very interesting and delicious dish for all of you. So I'll share my screen now. Is it okay? So between us, we decided that there are 5 milestones that we would need to achieve to reach the destination of a master chef in software testing. The first one is delight the stakeholders, and so this is like a tester's job is not just limited to executing the test and marking it pass or fail and then opening some defects. There are a lot of stakeholders involved in the entire product life cycle, and for example, the customer, the product owner, the offering managers, and it would be good to take everybody's pain points and expectations into account and try to delight them. So this was the first thing that we felt can be taken care of. Then we decided that there are certain things that sometimes leave a bad taste in the overall development process. So just as a dish, no matter how many spices you put in, if the salt is too much or too little, the entire flavor is gone, right? So if there are certain hiccups in the development process, need to learn from them and ensure that they don't get repeated. The third thing is stir up a winning batter by dissolving lumps or risks as we know them in the software world. So identify the risks and make sure that you are mitigating them well in advance, or at least when they arrive, so that there's not a unrecoverable delay in the entire process. The fourth is add garnish to the product. So what more can we do apart from just testing and finding defects? We can suggest enhancements to future releases of the product, keeping in mind what the customer wants, and get some live feedback from customers, look at their field issues, and figure out how we can enhance our existing test cases, test plans to incorporate them. And lastly, present the gourmet meal, which is basically present a product with really good quality to the customer. Again, a tester is not the only one responsible for the quality. There are a lot of different stakeholders, and how does a tester work with all of them to present the gourmet meal is what this talks about. This is the agenda. So in order to go through the journey of software test craftsmanship, we wanted to actually talk about a specific use case, because without a use case, it will be just theory or just words. And for that use case, wanted to give an overview of something called IBM Cloud Paks. Also was going to briefly touch upon the software development lifecycle and software testing lifecycle, which I'm sure is familiar to all of you, but it's important to touch upon in order to segue into our main topic. Then we bring the real use case that we want to talk about. And Hina, my colleague, would deep dive into the test effort that went into the use case implementation. So I'll now talk about the IBM Cloud Pak. So they are basically containerized software which are powered by Red Hat OpenShift Kubernetes platform that IBM has. And they are basically designed to accelerate organizations' cloud adoption as fast as possible. So there are a few cloud packs that IBM already supports, 6 of them to be honest. On the right, there is an architecture diagram. It's a layered architecture that we have, where the red block talks about the open hybrid multi-cloud platform, which has Red Hat OpenShift, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, common operational services. And on top of this reside each of our cloud packs, which basically cater to different uh, offerings or areas. So Cloud Pak for applications basically lets developers build cloud native applications on the fly and make sure that they are ready for cloud in the blink of an eye. Cloud Pak for data basically is the data and AI platform which the users can use to organize their data, create data machine learning models from it and use that. Cloud Pak for integration is our integration platform which has event streaming, messaging, App Connect, API Connect to help integrate the applications quickly. Cloud Pak for automation helps the overall digital business processes or digital business automation, um, and by automating the workflows, etc., quickly. Cloud Pak for security basically identifies the risks and threats well in advance and mitigates them by giving out alerts, etc. And then on the right here, we have the Cloud Pak for multi-cloud management, which basically allows the integration with different public clouds or hybrid clouds, and lets the user use multi-clouds for their cloud operations. So moving on to the actual use case, actually before I move on, I wanted to slightly deep dive into 2 of the Cloud Paks which we will be using in our use case. First is the Cloud Pak for integration, and on the right you will see the different components that are bundled with this Cloud Pak, and the ones that are bolded are the ones that we are using in our use case, and those are App Connect Enterprise, MQ Advanced, Event Streams, and Kafka. The next Cloud Pak that we wanted to do a deep dive on is the Cloud Pak for data. Again, you see there are a lot of components that are bundled as part of this Cloud Pak, but we are interested in only 2 of them, the Watson Machine Learning and Watson Studio Local, which we'll be using in our use case. So nowadays, banking institutions are facing a lot of competition, and they're constantly looking to give more value to their customers and looking for customer loyalty. And the persona that we have, Jane, is a developer working in a finance domain project, and the bank that she's working for is looking for an integrated solution where the client spending history can be analyzed into different categories and client can be sent alerts or informed accordingly. So she's looking for a better way to implement a solution with accelerated learning curve and efficient results. And the solution that was proposed to her, an integration of Cloud Pak for integration, CP4I, and Cloud Pak for data, CP4D. So CP4I gives a complete flexible integration capability that we need to move at today's rapid business speed, and CP4D is a fully integrated data and AI platform that modernize how businesses collect, organize, and analyze data to infuse AI, artificial intelligence, through their organizations. Here is a pictorial representation of the use case. So the customer swipes her card for a transaction and the details are captured by the bank. Now at this point, that data can be consumed by IBM Cloud Pak for data through their Watson Learning and Watson Studio components to analyze the customer's spending history or behavior. At the same time, that same data is routed via the IBM MQ component of Cloud Pak for integration and goes into the Kafka component, and the model, machine learning model that is generated by IBM Cloud Pak for data is also fed into Kafka, which is basically a rules engine. And by using all this inputs, it will come up with customized alerts for this particular customer, and through the App Connect component, send alerts to the customer via the preferred channel. In this case, it's SMS or email. The customer is informed of the latest offers based on her spending behavior. So this was the use case that we will be covering. A short overview on is, I think SDLC, everybody in this software world is aware of. The different stages are requirements gathering, analysis, design, coding, testing, and deployment or in production. The testing lifecycle follows a parallel route where they also have requirement analysis, test planning, test design, environment setup, test execution, and test sign-off or test closure. In this software testing lifecycle, there can be different types of testing that need to be covered in order to serve the gourmet meal that we were talking about, right? So each of these testing has a particular timing in the life cycle. So first one that happens is the functional testing, which is the meat, which basically tests the features that get added in every release and making sure that they are working as designed. Then we have the regression testing. This is primarily tried out through a mature test automation framework. And this is to see that any new code that is added doesn't break any existing feature or function. Then we have security testing. So as more and more applications or products move to cloud and SaaS is becoming the norm, security testing becomes very critical. And vulnerability or penetration testing or making sure that passwords don't show up in clear text and logs, ethical hacking, all of this is very much required. Performance testing is also critical to understand how the application behaves under load. Also, reliability or stress testing is very critical for heavy workloads. Um, User experience testing or the UX testing is something that basically decides what is the customer experience is going to be like, either through the user interface or documentation, APIs, whatever is exposed to the customer. And lastly, the user acceptance testing, which is basically some beta users or some real customers who are given an early version of the product to try out and give their first-hand experiences. There are other testings also like recovery or failover testing. Upgrade testing is very critical, especially for SaaS models. And you know how the licensing and all for paper use comes up, etc. So all of these testing will have their own entry and exit criteria and can be executed only once those are met. So what would be Jane's journey to certify the use case that we talked about? I will hand over now to my colleague Hina to take us through her journey. Over to you, Hina.
Thank you, Nilambari. So what we saw just now are the different milestones that we have in our testing journey. We also saw a use case which Jane has developed for a bank. But how is a stakeholder delighted is our major concern as a tester. So your stakeholder is delighted when the product that you give him is well tested. So how do we make sure of testing the product well? Cover the end-to-end test scenarios. When we say end-to-end test scenarios, we mean cover the real-time scenarios that the customer will be using your application for. Make sure your negative scenarios are as well tested. Happy path testing is good. It's good for the developers too, right? Because they are happy that everything is working fine. But how to break that product? What if you enter numbers in the place of the text which just has your name? Does your application crash or does it give you an error? That's what you have to find out. Usability testing is the intuitive user experience. Is the UI desirable? Is your UI accessible to all the regions, all people with disability? Is your application worth it? And then ensure system reliability. Zonal data centers nowadays, high availability, load balancing are all part of making sure that your application is available 24/7. Moving to the next slide. So here we will be talking about a use case with which we delighted our stakeholders. So while working with IBM Cloud Paks, what we saw that there was a feedback from the customer that to deploy a Cloud Pak, they need to deploy 5 different layers of platform, right? Starting from arranging for the resources, then making sure the OpenShift is deployed, the Cloud Pak is deployed, and further on top of that, your components are deployed. So before the time the developer can actually start working on the application development, he had to invest time in deploying those platforms. So what did we come with? Well, we ensured a solution which was just one-click deployment. And that is how the developers now don't need to invest time in deploying the platform. Rather, they can directly jump onto the deployed platform to ensure that they are there to modernize their applications. Our next slide talks about the bad tastes in our development process. So even if you go to a restaurant and the dish is presented to the best possible way and a single spice which is missing leaves a bad taste. In our test execution cycles, what are those bad tastes? External dependencies. When you are not able to collaborate well with your external dependencies, third-party vendors, third-party tools. For our example of Jane's case, where she is using Cloud Paks, in the entire cycle, we have a dependency of talking to Red Hat team for getting our issues resolved with them. Now, if there's a delay in getting those resolutions, further it delays our development process. And that is what we are talking about here. We should try to maintain a good collaboration with all the teams that we are working with. Gaps in the defined process during the execution cycle. Anytime when a project release starts or a project actually kicks off, we define a process. The DevOps process, whenever a build is to be uploaded or whenever a code is to be integrated into your master, a ticket should be created. What if you miss on that ticket? Well, if one process is missed, of course, the entire chain gets affected. So let's try to ensure that the process that is defined is well adhered to. Change management process not followed diligently, which of course means that whenever you are submitting your versions or your code changes, make sure your version changes are well maintained. Any document or artifacts that you are working on, it may be your test plan, it could be your test strategy document. Versioning is important. Gaps in documentation. Documentation is something which normally comes at the end of the cycle, right? And that is something that we don't tend to take it as a technical thing. But trust me, your customers are going through your documentation. And for your product, that's the Bible that they refer to. Any menu item missing in the documentation asks for a defect from the customer. That is why it's important that our documentation process is reviewed multiple times and is ensured that it's up to date with the current product that is in the market. Next slide, please. Okay, so your bad tastes are looked into, so you ensure that your challenges are done. But now it's time to start up that winning batter and find out those risks or those challenges which may hamper your test execution cycle. Collaboration. As we discussed, dev teams, test teams, different third-party teams. For in our case, it's the Cloud Pak teams that we talk to, the Red Hat teams that we talk to. They are well collaborated. The risks are highlighted well in time. And at times, your scrums or your meetings may not work. And at that point of time, bring in your soft skills and ensure that there is a seamless collaboration between all the teams. Adapt to changes. Today, businesses are dynamic. They need one thing today and tomorrow the same requirement may change. Be ready to accept those urgent requirement changes. Be ready to upskill yourself. Be ready to adapt any tool that is available in the market for you to try for. Testing on all the fronts. What does this mean? Well, if I come to you with my product and you ask me, what should I test in this product? Well, that wouldn't be a good question to ask for, because whenever your product is being brought to you for testing, it has to be tested on all the possible aspects. Nilambari has already touched upon all the major testing, but of course, it's not limited to that. Today with web applications, you have cross-browser testing, you have cross-device testing, security, UI, and these are just to name a few. Iterative reviews. How do you ensure that you are having that winning batter, which means that you are having that successful product quality that you are looking for? After every iteration, we have, as part of our Scrum and Agile, we have our iteration reviews, we have our playbacks. But what do we do after that? Do we take those feedback and try to implement those in our product? Well, if not, then it's time to. Quality is owned by dev too. Why should testers have all the fun? Why should development not test the product well? So development, after they have done their code, they should go through thorough code reviews. There are certain tools in the market which are available along with your CDCI, which will do your code reviews as and when you submit your code. Make sure the unit testing by development is well done, because if it's not unit tested, then the testing team will be just occupied in finding those small little bugs like variable not working or the text box is not available. So to avoid such small bugs, let's do good unit testing. Let's give the testing team a good build. And from testing point of view also, anyways, you are testing the product well.
Hina Nilambari, just a general reminder, you have 7 minutes left.
Sure.
Thank you.
Innovation. Don't stay, just in that closed box. Come out. There are lots and lots of products in the market. Try to bring that innovation in your testing as well. Explore, bring that tool to the table, talk to your management about it. Of course, there will be licensing fee, but that is what you have to convince them for. So innovate while you're working. Testing has, today AI, ML, of course, are, just expanding your scope with which you can bring in more new things to your testing forum. Next slide. Okay, so your batter is done and your dish is almost ready, and now it's time to garnish that dish. When I say garnish, what is the value addition that you can bring to your conversations, to your product? Suggest enhancements. As a tester, you are not confined to test that product. As a tester, you own the product because it's based on your sign-off and your experience that the product is launched into the market. So what to do? Well, if you see something which is missing in the product, don't stay quiet. Put a ticket for it, bring it to the backlog, make your architects and the management aware about it, and that may come as a good enhancement to your product. So ensure all enhancements are discussed and if at all approved by everyone, they get to the backlog and are part of your product. Solicit your stakeholder feedback during the playback demos. Build a healthy backlog with the customer issues. Whenever your product is out in the market, you will get many customer feedbacks. Even in beta testing, customers give their feedback on the product. Take those feedback as enhancements, or maybe as they may be a bug too. So take those feedback and make sure they are also a part of your product backlog. Improvise and evolve existing test approaches. This we've already discussed, and our movement from waterfall to agile is a classic example of how testing has evolved since decade. Okay, your dish is all ready and it's time for you to present that dish to your stakeholders, which means that the product quality that you've been working on, the entire project test execution cycle that you have worked on, it's the time you bring it to the customer. So how did we ensure that the product quality was well managed and the gourmet meal that is being presented is up to the mark. So for this, one thing that is ensured is that testing team has always been working with the development. Earlier, during the waterfall model, if you worked at that point of time, there was a Chinese wall that was built between the developers and the testers. So testers will not interact with development on the requirement analysis or something. Now that is broken. With Agile, it's all one team, right? So now test team works with the development team. They understand what development team is coding, and that is how the test strategy and test cases and scenarios are worked upon. A thorough review of test artifacts, we've already discussed this. Stakeholders need to review the documents very well. And as a testing team, as a test lead or as a test manager, we have to ensure that the documents are well reviewed and are signed off so that everyone is aware of what testing is being planned for that product release. Quality indices like your defect escape ratio. What has been your failure rate in different releases of the product? Where is that the requirements are not matching with the developed product? What is the customer PMR or the defects that the customers are sending? How much are those being fixed and given? What is the age of the defects that you are keeping yourself with? So customers need a fast response to the defects. So what is the age of the defects that the defects are lying with you? Ensure that is not very high. Mature test automation framework. Throughout the day today, I think we've been discussing a lot on test automation, how test automation helps, and of course it does help. You have a big regression suite that you have to maintain with automation framework. Your automation framework needs to be robust. You have to ensure that it gives the quality that you're looking for. Even the smallest bug should not escape from your test automation framework. And DevOps, I need not say much about it. Your continuous integration and CD/CI cycles are well maintained. The automation is well maintained so that developers can develop more and testers can test more.
Hina, just a gentle reminder, last 2 minutes for you.
Yeah. So this was the use case that we started our talk with. This is our customer who has transaction done, and finally she's the happy customer. Now the use case is developed, and the testings that we have carried out as part of our entire project execution included security testing because we were working on transaction data, customers secure information, then database testing where we ensure that transactions are saved well, whatever you query is coming out well. Integration testing, you see there are a number of applications integrated, so integration testing was carried out. Then security, UI, performance testing, ensuring that the availability is every time, and finally end-to-end testing where the customer transacts and at the same time he gets a real-time alert on the offer. And end-to-end testing, of course, is not limited to one domain. Every domain will have its own end-to-end test. Gmail will have its own, and similarly, our Cloud Paks had their own end-to-end testing. Okay, so this brings us to the end of our talk. And who is a true craftsman? The one who understands that it's not about the breadth of the product, it's about the breadth and the quality. And a tester ensures that he understands the business aspects of the product as well. He understands the domain very well. So if I'm on an investment banking project, I need to understand investment banking. It's not about clicking and just entering the number of shares or stocks that I need to buy as a tester. I need to understand what will happen if I, if I buy these stocks, what is short stocks, and I need to understand all those terms as well. And it is a disciplined function. Do not, stop yourself from learning more, evolve with times, and adapt to the upcoming technologies. In our use case that we discussed, as a testing team, I get just 30 seconds more.
Oh, really sorry.
As a testing team, we have upgraded ourselves on Kubernetes, microservices. We've ensured that collaboration and communication is well managed. Tools like Slack, GitHub, and of course, other tools which were already a part of all the other functions of the project. And in the end, I would just like to say, tasting the dish and testing the software is what a true testing master chef does. Thank you, and we are open for any Q&As.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, we wish that we can actually taste the dishes, and it was really wonderful. Thank you for having a wonderful session, Hina and Nilambari. So it's time for having a Q&A, and let me share my screen so that we can go through the Q&A. So just we have a couple of questions from Aditya, and like, are we setting ourselves to a perfect solutions? A good chef is always looking for improvisations. How about that? And in continuation to previous question, let's say we have added more salt to fix it. We can add some acid component to still make it taste great. How do we handle this?
Can we remove that? Okay, so we already spoke of, I think, adapting to new technologies, to improvising on the product. No product is like 100% efficient the first time. We will make mistakes, right? What we need to have is we need to be open. We need to understand that yes, this product or this testing process needs improvisation, and yeah, and we learn and we implement all the new things, or we improvise our testing processes and everything. And in continuation to previous question, let's say we have added more salt to fix it. We can add some acid component to still make it taste great. How do we handle this? Well, to make it still make it great, bring in more innovation to it. That's what I would like to suggest. And in our use case, like in our product, we are now working on trying to bring some AI infusion into the product, to get the performance of how the product is working at different customer ends. So that is what we are trying to see, that how can we, so performance is anyways tested by a team in our for the.
I would like to add here that we can document the limitation or the behavior in this particular release, and then fix the problem in the next release as a on priority. So that is how we can handle that. And to take up the next question, Aditya, on if we add too much garnish or gold plating, that might also spoil the taste. I guess we whatever we talked about, the journey to a test craftsman, it doesn't have to happen in the timeline of one release, right? It is a evolution or a journey after all. So you get to do all that release over release, and over time you don't get to be an expert right from day one. So I don't think it is even possible to do all of that within one release. It will have to be kind of staggered across releases and make sure that eventually the product evolves in such a way that the customer has a winner on their hands, and we have a product that has captured the market. So it is an evolution, not a revolution, Aditya.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Hina and Nilambari. It was a great session from you.
Thank you.